Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, Say What's Real TV. We are finally back. This is the review for Tylerperry's Sistas, Season 7, Episode 12, Next Level. So we open up the episode with Karen. In the finale, we remember Karen getting a phone call from her doctor's office letting her know of this rare occurrence of her twins having separate fathers. So now she is sitting on the couch looking baffled and bewildered, wondering what is going on, what is she going to do? So she calls her mom over there. Mama Lisa gets there and she breaks the news to her. And of course, she's confused. She's never heard of this. It's something that's very rare that happens. And Karen is more concerned with what people are going to think of her, how they're going to perceive her. She doesn't want to be looked at as a 304, a slut bucket, all of this and that. But hey, you made your bed and you lied in it, literally. But hey, it is what it is. So her mom tells her, look, don't worry about what people are thinking about you. At least you have two fathers that are willing to help you take care of these kids. So then Mama Lisa wants to know, does Zach know? And coincidentally, he just so happens to call Karen's phone. Why he's calling Karen's phone is beyond me, because he was actually in the building taking a DNA test to where he should have received his own results. Now, if he did get his own results and was not able to read them, because we do know Zach could be a little slow at times and maybe they're a little confusing and he called Karen for clarification, I could understand that. But for him to call her to actually find out what was what, no ma'am. So she basically just tells him that she's not going to tell him over the phone. He has to come to her house and she'll tell him in person the next day. So we go back over there to Gary's office where Andy and Fatima are basically wasting their time and hours trying to threaten Gary to get information about Penelope's disappearance. Fatima calls herself jacking Gary up with this little pocket knife as if that was going to do anything. Gary is clearly unbothered, unfazed. He starts laughing and playing in both of their faces, saying the only thing he is guilty of is being fine as hell. And he is a little fine. He is a little fine, but that's neither here nor there. So then in true Gary form, he turns this whole thing around on slow-ass Andy and says, how do I know that you don't have something to do with Penelope being missing? You are the one to try to get her to leave me. So I guess Gary felt like he has had enough of playing a little game with these two, and he calls them two crazy bees and tells them to get the hell up out of his office before things get ugly up in that piece. Fatima lets him know that nobody is scared of him, and he's still giving unbothered. Like he doesn't want to hear all that yang, 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 yang. Andy's in the back talking about they'll just get the law to handle it. And I'm like, Andy, be quiet. Shh. Keep that part to yourself the way you've been keeping everything from Jordan. Don't tell Gary everything. So the two of them, they finally decide to leave. But then we have Miss Jessica Fletcher herself, Miss Andy, peep out some blood splatter on the wall all the way from the door. She doesn't say anything to Gary and she just leaves. Now, mind you, Gary brought in a whole team, this cleanup guy named Dagger that he used for previous situations he's had in the past to clean up all his messes. And Dagger was taking a long time. And Gary was quite impatient telling him what's taking so long. How much longer is this going to take? And Dagger was like, look, you've been a messy boy this time. You know this is a thorough job. They walking around in suits and masks and flashlights and big garbage bags. And you mean to tell me they didn't see this? Come on now. Anyway, Gary's sitting in there drinking his drink, acting like he is untouchable, yelling out, he owns the police. So when Andy gets back to the car with Fatima, she tells her that they should go to the cops because she saw blood on the wall in his office. And Fatima was like, do you think he would actually do something to Penelope knowing that she's carrying his child? And Andy was like, Gary is capable of doing anything to get what he wants. And Fatima basically lets her know, look, you need to go talk to Jordan, which for some reason Andy has been dragging her heels when it comes to talking to Jordan about everything that Gary has been doing pertaining to him and his sister. I guess with all the excitement of the drama and the brown liquor Gary done got where he is wanting to do some things, so he's texting Tamara. So they back and forth skinning and grinning. He telling her to come get her sexy red on and bend that over on his desk, right? So apparently she's ready to make that coochie breathe because she texts him back and says, I'll try. But all the while her husband has set up this nice romantic dinner for two, and he wanted to surprise her, and he has like the champagne, the flowers, the candles, all of this prepared for her, but she over there thinking about Gary with his raggedy behind. So all of a sudden Hayden, he gets a phone call from Miss Marie, and she's yelling in the phone saying that she can't find Andy anywhere and that she needs to see the two of them pronto. So Hayden, he explains the situation to Tamara and tells her that he'll see her later. But Tamara didn't give a damn. She was glad he was going. She didn't care why, when, who, how, what. She was happy. Before Hayden could walk off from her good enough, she had already texted Gary back telling him she was on her way. And with a blink of an eye, Tamara had already changed clothes and was already walking through Gary's office door. These two wasted absolutely no time bending it over on that desk to get freaky. Now, I can't wait for these two to get caught. I want to know what Hayden is going to do when he finds out about the betrayal from both parties. And quiet as it's kept, we don't see any condoms being used when these two hook up and do their little freaky deek sessions. So when she pops up pregnant, who is she going to say is the baby daddy? Will it be Hayden's or will it be Gary's? Also, she can contract an STD. Now, we do know that Gary has multiple women. He's over there hunching out of both pants legs, flying people in, all kind of different stuff. So should she contract something and take it back to Hayden, what is she going to do? How's she going to get out of that? Like, girl, get it together. So it's the next morning and we go over there to Zach and Fatima's. We see her getting ready to go for a run before work. She's already fixed Michael's breakfast and everything. Zach comes down and lets her know that he just got a call from Karen, which is not the truth. He actually called Karen the night before to ask for the results. But anyway, so he tells her that Karen wants him to come over to her house later on that night to give the results in person. And Fatima was like, okay, cool. Like, what time should I be there? And now he's stumbling and stammering over his words because I guess in his mind, he really don't want all the drama and trying to keep the peace, I guess. I don't know what the point was, but Fatima wasn't having it and basically was like, look, if I don't go, you don't go, and we can get the results in court, period. So we get a phone call between Danny and Sabrina, and Danny brings up Karen. And Sabrina tells her she hasn't talked to her, but she tells Danny that she really needs to apologize. And Danny is like, apologize for what? Like, why am I always the one to have to apologize first? So Sabrina goes on to tell Danny that Karen has been through a lot and it's probably her hormones just all over the place is why she's acting like that. So Danny, she agrees and she says, well, maybe I'll stop by after work. So we go over there to the law firm and we see Andy sitting at her desk, can't even think straight, can't get her mind right. So Fatima comes in there and asks her, did her and Jordan go and make the police report? So we saw Andy make a phone call to Jordan the night before, and she realized that he was out of town on a business trip to Macon. And during their conversation, he starts yawning, talking about he has to get up early to go to this meeting or whatever. So she decided not to say anything at all. I felt like she should have told him anyway, and I'm sure he would have canceled this meeting when it comes to his sister. So now she's sitting in her office feeling guilty because she says she's been calling Penelope nonstop and she's not getting any answers. So Hayden, he comes busting up in the office like he always does, interrupting and basically lets Andy know that Miss Marie plans on having her behind for breakfast. So Andy is like, well, what's going on? So Hayden tells her about this so-called emergency meeting that Miss Marie called and Andy was nowhere to be found. So she's like, well, why didn't y'all call me? And they were like, we tried, but to no avail. You know, you wasn't answering. And then he tells her, look, just be expecting a phone call. And of course, her phone rings. So Andy answers and Miss Marie quickly goes in on her like, oh, I see your phone is working now. And Andy tries to give this little lame excuse about some personal thing she had going on, and Miss Marie didn't want to hear it. She told her basically, look, I suggest you get it done quick and in a hurry, whatever your little personal issues are, before I make Mr. Moss, meaning Hayden, my sole counsel. And baby, at that moment, I would have had to let Miss Marie know, look, go ahead and do what you got to do, because my after hours are my time. My own personal life has nothing to do with you and your little divorce case, okay? and all this talking to people like you crazy has to stop. And we still want to know what the meeting was about. Hayden rushed out from his little romantic dinner with Tamara to go to this meeting. What did you want? Was that just a setup to say she can and will call them at any given time of the night and they go running? We see the future episode when she's dropping the robe. So was that just a setup for that? Because what did she want last night? That's what we want to know. And Andy, how were you calling Penelope all night, but you weren't receiving any calls? Like, how does that work? Why was your phone not receiving any calls? And how do you know Penelope didn't call you if you weren't getting any other calls? So we head over there to the bank where we see Sabrina trying to give herself a shot for her IVF process, when she then hears this commotion between Maurice and another employee named Carrie. So apparently we done got rid of Paige. They done fired Paige because she was in the back giving sloppy toppy to the customers and they had to let her go. So now we dealing with Carrie. So Carrie in there giving Maurice the business, letting him know, look, the only reason they hired you back was because you're friends with Sabrina, which is facts. And already he hasn't even been in here. This is probably his first day back and he already causing commotion. Carrie is basically accusing him of stealing her soda that she was going to drink on her lunch break. And he is denying it. Sabrina has to stop what she's doing, go out there and basically diffuse the situation, tells Maurice to go to her office and tells Carrie, look, I'll buy you a whole 12-pack of sodas. Just please, let's just stop with all the foolishness, okay? Now, when we get in Sabrina's office, we see that Maurice basically helped her give herself the shot because she couldn't do it. And then they end up talking, and come to find out Maurice did take the lady's soda. He claims his sugar was low, so she calls herself trying to talk to him, telling him he can't be causing all this commotion, and he just got back because they're going to start talking. Now, Sabrina, if you're going to be the branch manager, you're going to have the employees respect you as such. You can't just be trying to be everybody's friend and offering up sodas. These two need to be working, not arguing. So don't let them run all over you. Like, we know Maurice is going to get over. You need to start writing Maurice behind up. So we get this real quick scene over at the salon where we see Trey putting up cameras that he told Karen he would help her with. So he's talking to Pam. So he asks her about her hair products and she says that it's going great. And he, wishes her success and tells her he hopes she gets as big as Marjorie Joyner. Pam was like, well, who is that? I've never heard of her. He tells her she should look her up. She was a very successful hair product entrepreneur. So Karen, she comes and tells Pam to go check out one of the customers as she thanks Trey for helping to do the cameras on his day off. And, she tells him she appreciated, and Pam hurry up and rushed right back over there. And she was like, yeah, we appreciate it. I'm like, well, why don't you go ahead and just allow Trey and Pam to go ahead and hook up? Clearly, they have a little better chemistry going on because Karen wants absolutely nothing to do with Trey. And all these little meaningless scenes that we keep having with Trey coming to the salon and Karen basically giving him her butt to kiss, what are we actually trying to do with his character? My vote would be just to put him with Pam. So we go over there to the airport where Tony catches up with Danny and basically is asking her, can she watch the kids because he has this important meeting that's scheduled for 7 o'clock. And Danny, of course, is reluctant. She really doesn't want to be bothered with these kids. She's like, well, what happened to your aunt? He says that she already went on her bingo retreat, so she's unavailable. He already tried. So he's basically begging her to come through and do this favor for him. And she tells him yes, even though we all know she really doesn't want to do it. So Jordan, he calls Andy and asks, does she still need to talk to him? And she was like, yeah, I'm on my way over there now. So he starts telling her he has not heard from Penelope yet. He's called Gary. Gary won't answer the phone. So he says he's thinking about going over to Penelope's to check things out. And Andy, she's getting all nervous like, no, wait, don't go over there to do anything stupid. Just wait till I get to you. And I'm like, why would he do anything stupid, Andy, when you have yet to tell him anything? He's not mad. He's just going over there to check things out, knock on the door, see if he can see anything, see what's going on, like any normal person would have already done anyway. But he's like, why you sound so serious? She says she'll explain everything when she sees him. And he says, is there something you're not telling me? This lady politely hangs up the phone in this man's face. I'm like, Andy, you're making things worse. So we get a phone call between Maurice and Grayson, and I feel like both sides showed little signs of jealousy. Maurice called him Mandingo, which I could have sworn he's called him that before. And Grayson made some little comment, oh, I just want to make sure you didn't think this was somebody else calling you or whatever. I'm like, Grayson, please. So then he's asking Maurice, what time are you going to get to the club? And Maurice tells him, look, I'm finishing up now. I'll be there. And Grayson makes this comment kind of teasing him. He was like, don't make me wait too long because some little young thundercat might come scoop me up. So Maurice basically was like, no, I changed my mind. You come home now. You come home like I ain't playing with you type attitude. And I'm like, wait a minute. So the two of you live together now? Like, when did this happen? Or was that just a figure of speech? Because we see when Grayson gets there, they're on the sofa talking, and Grayson tells him he's ready to take this relationship to the next level. He says that since Maurice got rid of his fixation page, he can have Maurice all to himself exclusively. And he tells Maurice he doesn't want to be with anybody except him. Now, I think that's all good and gravy and all of that, but for me, something about Grayson just gives possessive and controlling. Now, Maurice, he's looking a little smitten by what Grayson just said, but Maurice is already showing signs of insecurity. And why are we still sitting on the sofa? I thought we were going out to enjoy a night out on the town. Like, just because he mentioned and was teasing you about somebody snatching him up, does that mean we now have to sit in the house all night? Like, I'm confused why they're still in the house. So we get this real quick scene with Sabrina and Rich. They're at her place chilling, watching some erotica type TV, getting tips. And my thing is, why did Sabrina make it such a big deal about the juice bar with Danny and Fatima drinking when she says that she can't drink because of the IVF, but clearly she's in here watching this little sensual TV stuff with Rich drinking wine? Like, make it make sense. So they end up in the bedroom and they're getting ready to make it do what it do. And they're in there stretching and doing all kind of little stuff they saw on the TV. So I guess the real question with this particular scene is, what are they really doing? Sabrina said on her birthday that if Rich couldn't get with the program, she had to break up with him. But they're still in here hunching down. Like, they're having a good time together. They enjoy each other's company, which is all fine. But she's still trying to get pregnant. That is something she stressed that she really wants. And he has stressed that he does not want. But the conversation has been swept under the rug. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that since Sabrina over there drinking alcohol, this whole IVF process is not going to work. She's going to be still hunching up on Rich. One of these condoms are going to break. She's going to pop up pregnant, and since it will be Rich's actual seed, then he'll want it to be his child, and then they'll be together. What do you guys think? So we go over there to Karen's house, and Zach and Fatima, they show up. When Karen opens the door, she is like, what the hell? Like, why is Fatima there? Zach, he worms his way in there and says that Fatima deserves to know who the baby daddy is. And, Karen lets her in, and she was like, look, I don't want no mess today. Fatima says, I'm not here for the mess. I'm just here to support Zach. Zach wants to know, what's the results? What's up? Karen says she's waiting on a special guest. We're all anticipating who this guest is. We know as the audience it's supposed to be Aaron. We get a knock on the door. When Karen opens it, it's Danny. So Karen, she asks Danny, what is she doing there? And Danny was like, I need to talk to you. But she sees Zach and Fatima and she worms her way in Karen's house. And she was like, well, I came to talk, but this looks way more interesting. Like, what's going on here? My question is, if you were in Karen's shoes at that particular moment, would you have allowed Danny inside your home and let her continue to stay? I don't think I would let her in just right then and there. We would have to have a private conversation, but it would have to take place at a later time. So she's in there and, looking around like, what's up? And Fatima blurts out, we're here to get the DNA test results. So, of course, Danny is like, oh, really? So telling Zach, oh, so you took my advice. So Zach is trying to tell her to hush her mouth and be quiet. And Fatima and Karen are like, what? So they're shocked and surprised because Karen says that Danny once again has stabbed her in the back by giving suggestions to Zach about getting this test. And Of course, we know that Fatima thinks that she was the reason for them having their conversation that he got it. But we remember when he called her and said, look, I'm going to go ahead and decide to get the DNA test. She asked him, what changed your mind? And he lied and said, oh, it was all you, babe. I should have listened to you from the beginning. Telling little white lies, you know how that is. It ends up being bigger lies later on. So Zach, he ends up apologizing to Karen and Fatima. And he basically tells Fatima he was still on the fence about the decision and tells Karen that was all on her because he tried to tell her that it wasn't only Fatima that was pushing him up to get the test done. So then we get another knock on the door. So we finally see that the special guest is Aaron. So Danny, she can't stop laughing, and Zach over there having this little temper tantrum. He's name calling Aaron a clown. What is he doing here? And Karen is like, look, he's one of the two people that I actually invited. Now, I find it funny that he can call Fatima and tell her to leave the Vaseline and the attitude and the purse at home so there's no drama between her and Karen. But the minute he sees Aaron each and every time, he acts a whole donkey. Like, why? So Danny, who is not even supposed to be in Karen's house, she rushes Karen to give out the DNA results. So Karen, she finally tells Zach and Aaron that both of them are the fathers of the twins. And, you know, everybody is looking confused and in amazement, like, what are you talking about? And she tells them that it's a rare occurrence that can happen, gives them some kind of term for it. So Karen, she shows them something on her phone. She shows Aaron first, and Zach, still being childish as hell, was like, why are you showing him first? And then when he looks at the phone, he was like, look, I'm not even going to lie. I'm still excited, and I hope mine is a girl. So Fatima, you know, she's turning her eyes up like, whatever. So after Daddy done got all the tea, she tells Karen, look, I did come over here to apologize, but I see you got a lot going on, so I'm going to go ahead and head out. So Karen asks her not to say nothing to the girls, and Danny lies and says she wasn't going to say anything. Karen tells her that the people that was in the room right now were the only ones who knew, but we do know that Mama Lisa does know. But at the end of the day, Danny is going to do what she wants to do, so we already know she is ready to go tell everybody. So Aaron, he's super excited about becoming a dad, and he tries to have a little slight moment with Karen, and she kind of brushes him off a little bit. And then Zach, still over there being childish, tells Aaron to remember what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. So Karen basically was like, look, you guys have the results that you need and been begging for, so now you can leave. Goodbye. So Zach, he's super excited. You know, he's ready to run home and tell Michael all about his sibling. He's rubbing on Karen's belly, you know, asking Fatima, was she all right? Fatima didn't say two words, not two mumbling words. She just walked out. So I'll be interested to hear what their conversations are going to be about this time. Aaron, he tries to have a conversation with Karen, but she tells him, look, can we just talk tomorrow? I'm tired. He doesn't really care. He's happy, so he leaves. So when Danny gets home, Tony is already there with the kids. And he's like, look, I gotta go, blah, blah, blah. You know, it shouldn't take that long. So he hurries up and rushes out the door. Soon as he leaves, the kids are like, we're hungry. So Danny tells them that she has some leftover pizza in the refrigerator. They're not paying her any attention. The little boy, he turns the TV on, and the little girl, Brianna, she wants to go play dress up in Danny's closet. So later we see Danny laying on the sofa. She's ready for the kids to go because she ready to spread this tea, talking about she got to talk to some grown folks. So Brianna comes out the room and says, what are these for? She has some pink handcuffs in her hand. And Danny was like, oh, it's a game that me and your daddy plays. And I'm like, why would you even tell her that? Like, I would be like, excuse me, let me have those. But Danny, she tells the little girl to ask your dad. So Danny, she gets a knock on the door, and Brianna was like, is that my dad? And Danny was like, I hope so. So I'm like, why are you knocking on the door, Tony? Clearly, you already have a key because you were already sitting in her house before she got home from work. So why are you knocking? So while all that's going on, Brianna stuffs the handcuffs in her pocket, which will probably cause some kind of drama later, and the reason Danny has to apologize to Tony. So Tony, he comes in like, oh, I missed you guys. I hope they weren't too much trouble, Danny. And Danny is lying like, oh, no, they were fine, blah, blah, blah. Danny was trying to get them out of there so fast, she didn't even give Tony a goodnight kiss. It was like good night and goodbye. So we go over there to Jordan's house, and of course, him and Andy, they're smashing each other's face into each other as usual. I'm like, girl, enough of all that. But he can sense that she's not in the mood. So he's like, what's wrong? So she finally says that she thinks that Penelope is missing and that Gary has something to do with it. But Jordan, he wants her to explain what she's talking about. Like, why does she feel that way? And she tells him all these different things about, not being able to get in touch with her and how she went over there to talk to Gary and he was being evasive and all of that. And, he gets real upset like, oh, this could not be happening. So he tries to call Penelope. And now, of course, the mailbox is full. So he gets real upset and act like he getting ready to do something, like he getting ready to hit Andy. I'm like, boy, sit down somewhere. So he wants her to elaborate why she think Gary has something to do with her being missing. And she says that Gary has done some dark things and gotten away with him. And for the life of me, I said every time, I do not understand why Andy never told Jordan that Gary was responsible for that whole political scandal against Jordan with the teenage girl. Like, why didn't you tell him that? Like, I don't get it. And she then admits to him that she's been trying to help Penelope escape Gary this whole time. And he was like, oh, so you've been doing all this behind my back. So Andy, she's trying to show that she's so remorseful and so sorry for not telling the truth and trying to muster up some tears, but none were falling from her eyes, not one drop, child. And she was like, we should go to the police. And he was like, that's exactly what I'm getting ready to do. And he proceeds to walk out and she's scrambling around trying to run behind him. So when we get down to the police station, we see Gary already down there talking to one of the detectives, dropping a dime on Andy, letting it be known that his ex is obsessed with him and does not want to see him with anyone, and trying to make it seem like Andy could be responsible for Penelope being missing. So the detective was like, we don't really know if she's missing, but we'll look into it. But basically, he already laid the groundwork for them to automatically look at Andy. And as he's, shaking the detective's hand, Andy and Jordan walk in. So Andy's yelling like, what are you doing here? And Jordan is giving major attitude like he's getting ready to beat Gary up. And Gary's acting all shy and innocent like he doesn't know what's going on, talking about, wow, whoa, such a temper. And that is where the episode ends. Woo, child. So we are back. This little premiere wasn't really given all that much, but we'll just have to wait and see what the rest of the season has to offer. But one thing I do know, I do not want to see Zach being childish every episode arguing with Aaron. This particular episode was written by April A.P. Powell. What did you guys think about it? Drop down in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts were. And as always, you guys, thanks to all the new subscribers. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.